Sam Schaefer with Schaefer Adaptive Methods, going over the Trap Bar Deadlift. The Trap Bar Deadlift, or any deadlift variation, is a compound movement, and when done properly challenges almost every part of the body at some level. On this particular movement, especially viewing this from the perspective of a hinge, the primary movers we're going to be dealing with will be glutes, hamstrings, back, everything you're not looking at me. That's the posterior chain. What muscles do you not see right now? That's your posterior chain. Those are the big movers on this deadlift, but from here, it's important to understand that this lift, to do properly, to do our best version of this one, to get the most benefits out of it, becomes about how we set up, how we move, and how we engage our movements. The bigger the movement, the easier it is to compensate and treat this as a movement to move from point A to point B, and that equals success. That's not really what we're about at Schaefer Adaptive. We are about moving from point A to point B in our most efficient model, in our most efficient pattern, no matter the weight, no matter the fatigue. So as we get into these movements, it's really important to be focusing on how we can make this move, not just can we make it move, and that's good enough. So there's really three categories of things to think about. First one is, what do I need to know before I get on the bar? What am I thinking about to get set up in my best position, my best leverage? And then three, how am I initiating movement and finishing that movement to move the bar from point A to point B? So just starting and thinking about, like, what do we need to know right off the bat? First, from the bottom up, the feet got to be flat, just like almost any other movement. If we maintain good balance in our feet, front to back, again, our weight shouldn't be primarily in our heels or primarily in our feet, or in front of our feet or our toes. It should be evenly in our feet. Toes are spread, we're grabbing the floor. When we have this locked down, we know that that really minimizes the amount of balance we can lose. It may be more difficult to do this small thing, but this more difficult small thing will make the bigger lift much easier. Second, we need to maintain a nice neutral spine. The way I like to think about this is, what does your torso do in a deadlift? The same thing it does in a farmer carry, which is an exercise where we'll hold any sort of object in both hands and simply walk. What does your torso do there? It maintains its position, it just refuses to bend over because of that weight. And then to kind of piggyback on that farmer carry analogy, what do the arms do? They're nice and long. Your hands are hooks, your arms are ropes. This is purely a connection to the bar. It is it's not where we're trying to get the bar moving. This is probably our least efficient way to get that job done. So now what are we thinking about before? Well, how are we getting set up? So first off, I want the feet to be pretty well underneath the hips. As I grab onto that bar, obviously those hips are going to get a little bit lower, but in our hinge, we're going to be not high. We're going to be above the knee for sure. So again, I'm going to pull on this bar, and I'm going to look for a few things. One, am I keeping my shins vertical? If I got this big bend in my knees, which the trap bar does allow, but again, we're viewing this as our hinge, so we want to keep the knees back as much as we can. Everybody's deadlift is going to look a little bit different, executing these points perfectly. So the other thing to realize is, you're not trying to be a mirror of me. We're trying to understand these concepts and apply them perfectly for you. So again, I've got vertical shins. I'm going to get my hands on this bar, and I'm going to use it to pull my shoulders back, and then my belly button into this little space in between my feet. And that's really going to help me set my back. And again, I can kind of set it and then grab the bar, but I find that it's just much easier to learn this by grabbing on the bar. It's also much easier to make sure that we have our weight evenly left to right. So from here, now I just got to think about moving this guy. I push my knees down into my ankles and my hips forward. There's no extra movement after that. We want this to be as minimal as possible for our best deadlift. When I come back down, I want to retrace those steps. Ideally, I'm learning how to land in that position. So again, I pretty well just push my hips forward, knees down into my feet, and that creates a very minimal movement. One of the demonstrations I love to give for my athletes is actually to do it without. So if I were to get into my deadlift position, I'm about right here. That is your deadlift. It's very simple, it's very small movement. It's what allows people to move. Probably the biggest weights that they move in the gym is going to be on the deadlift because of how much that leverage works to your advantage. So take care of how you're moving, and it goes a big way.